So the main question is, in regards to the pre-master concept, is it a person or is it a state of consciousness? So obviously it's not a person, but it's a state of consciousness, because none of us are a person. We're programmed to believe that we are no more or less than a personality. It's such a mask, and none of us is that, but every one of us is capable of being that to the infinite. But what we're talking about in terms of free master is a level of consciousness that would be considered a certain kind of enlightenment realization that is beyond words. Ensoundment realization which is beyond words. So, yes, everyone has the potential of free mastery. It's an ultimate state of, let's say, doing, knowing, and being. And so we're speaking then about the potential of human consciousness, spiritual potential, and some kind of transcendent realization altogether. Comment.
You mentioned in some of your works that the free master is not bound to any institution and may actually choose to revoke such institutions or any institutional association rather than having something built up around it. But there seem to be traditions in which there are enlightened beings who choose to be a part of that. Are they not?
Yes. Well, what I'm saying is that, which is true to our biology and our nature, one can outgrow all needs. So certainly the need for education is valid, a need for society is valid, a need for following is valid, and I would say that all such needs are steps along the path. Radical, complete, gone mad, God gone mad realization implies that there is zero attachment to anything and everything, which is our true nature already, our hue nature as silence. Okay? Silence. What does silence need? No question. So when we're talking about a realization, then we're speaking about something quite extreme, quite radical, quite basic, and thus quite natural, original, naked. See? In the spirit of expansion of heart awareness, the urge to share is appropriate, natural, and that urge, practiced in a dignified manner, can make things better for other peeps. So, in terms of these other traditions, they could say, and make it one of the clauses of their, I guess you might say, constitution, or their charter, or whatever it is, say that once you reach a certain point, you have to be on your own, because there's no way we can hold you back. See, you can enter a free realization, potentially, and outgrow everybody, outgrow anything. We could outgrow the earth. We could outgrow the physical dimension, because we are not that. It's just one of many dimensions. Therefore, the basis of the free master has to do with reality beyond appearances. And the fact that what we are made of is cosmic, let's say, atomic presence, awareness, at the finest, unimaginably, infinite levels. Since that's already our basis, everything is already perfect and complete. So the need for things, the need for a person or any kind of organization say, well, we need to conscript, we need to save everybody. That's a good question. Who's saving who? What is being saved? And whether or not the realization is beyond question, beyond duality relative to a problem and solving the problem. So once the realization is that complete and already sort of gone, there's nothing to say about anybody or anything, and nothing to do for anybody or anything, because at that level no body exists but itself. Then only no one exists. And thus nothing is its reality. which is not a negation, it's the ultimate affirmation of what might be considered true at that level. Comment, follow up?
Is it true at the level of every being? Is the free master already a part of or a dimension of every being?
It is the potential of every being once the being awakens to itself as more than just being. So you must awaken beyond the need to just be. You need to question yourself as to what your being, which is limitation, which is going to result in no limitation and enlightened or unsounded, completely heart-blown awareness. Then the subject of the free master becomes a viable topic, because then it's dealing with infinity. Free master then represents something along the lines of infinite intelligence, creatively speaking, and potential.
Is that the same as the level of the genius, or is that something more specific or other than the free master?
Well, there are levels of genius and creation and transcension. There are levels of intelligence that have to do with creation and then non-creation. Not to mean or imply destruction, but going beyond creation. Going beyond creation into spontaneous being. And so that level is the level of what would be called a true genius, spontaneous being. So it's created of itself and only of itself. And there's no self there, although there may be a person, there may be an individual that may be operating at that level, but it realizes itself as no self, and it functions accordingly. Thus it becomes a truly universal, impersonal self-being. Selfless being, but then it's the self of selflessness. Creative genius usually out of necessity. This is beyond necessity. It is part of the process of is becoming is ad infinitum. Light becoming light ad infinitum. Sound becoming and thus being sound ad infinitum. And so the ad infinitum to the degree of infinity means all intelligence, all possibility, all atoms, as well as all beings. So we talk really much more attention at the atomic level to what is real. Whereas you have individuals that are considered genius and operating on a very, very small agenda in terms of how they want to appear and what they want to contribute, as if they're contributing anything in truth or in fact. See? And they are, personally, it seems like they are karmically, because something is coming through them. But at the level of this realization, nothing is being done, and everything is being done at the same time.
Freedom, as in the free master, creativity, as you discuss, seem to me to be directly related to the fire.
It's not directly related to the fire, it is fire. So it's not related to itself, it just is itself. It is fire. But it's a paradox, so you can't just call it fire, because it's the fire of what? The fire of life, the fire of being, the fire of the heart, the fire of the mind, the fire of the body, the fire of the master, the fire of spirit, the fire of sound, the fire of silence. It's all these things. I mean, it's the extreme of the extreme. See, and thus we might call it, because of that quality or dimension or level or intensity, then it is something along the lines of the divine to the extreme. See? And as such, then it's getting close to what peace is, the extreme presence of the divine itself. Heart peace. Zero. Heart space. Zero heart space.
Can you discuss the paradox of something so extreme and something so burning?
It is and it isn't. And everything in between the is and it isn't, we can say is the middle ground. Is where people's limitations show up. Yeah. Beyond that, beyond them is extremes. If we're saying they're poles, or let's say they're walls, See, so you have human nature within the walls, and then you have infinite nature beyond the walls. So it's a matter of how open the individual needs to be to the degree where they're able to function with their, say, karmic programs, and to what degree they are needing to go beyond such programs. See, that could be a consideration. That could be something that only happens when you're in the company of a master, or the company of, let's say, infinity, or in the company of some kind of great cataclysmic change that's about to occur. To what degree are you willing to face death and ultimate transformation and go beyond yourself completely? So we're then talking about whether or not you are a victim of the self, or if you are a master of the self. And these questions take on a relatively different dimensional quality, and are implying a whole different consideration of consciousness, or level of intelligence from which to make certain decisions and or conduct certain operations in the time-space worlds as either a human or something more than a human.
People hear the terms peace and silence and think of stillness, but this fire is creative. It's transformative.
It is stillness. It is the truth and the proof of stillness, as it is said from this level, and it speaks. This level speaks for itself. It is everything because of its being nothing. See, that is the nature of the fire. The nothing in everything, and the everything in nothing. It's a paradox. See, from such a paradoxical stasis, creation occurs of itself. See? That means there has to be some balance between those extremes for it of itself to express what it is, freely expressing. And then at that level, we see that there's something of the universe being, say, affected by such conduction of intelligence, a conduction of energy, or conduction of spirit, or conduction of sound, or conduction of word, or conduction of light, as such. It's to do with the universe and not the individual as person or individual as an ego, but the individual as an impersonal intelligence, see, purified to the degree, or rarefied to the degree, where it can express itself by itself and then ultimately to itself.
What does that rarefy? Does the individual, does the personality do it? Or does the fire have
Destiny. Destiny has something to do with that, and how the individual receives the fire. Destiny, karma, see. Absolutely. That means self has more to do with it at that point, even though the self could want to be not self. The self could desire passionately, even crying fervently, longing for the occurrence of realization of no self. But it may not have any effect upon the process, because the process is not dependent upon a choice or a desire of anybody. The process is dependent upon the total picture, and what the earth needs, as well as what the universe needs, as well as what the heart needs. So these are factors that deal with the infinities or infinitudes that are part of the equation that have nothing to do with the self-mind. So nothing to talk about beyond the point, or think about, say, or try to put in your pocket beyond the point. It just won't fit in there. Now, in terms of the natives,
in light of this karma that you mentioned,
in the UAU,
in UAU,
ugly as ugliest,
ugly as ugliest,
great recording, yes.
It said that karma is a kind of universal law of justice, but one may be skeptical that there is.
But not in human terms.
Yes.
Pardon the interruption. The interruption is simply because of clarification. Justice is different. Justice is meted out differently. It is, let's say, a process that has to do with laws beyond comprehension. See? as well as laws well within comprehension. And we have the tit-for-tat form of justice. We're not talking about the tit-for-tat form of justice. We're talking about the justice in regard to the spirit of the earth evolving and progressing, expanding and contracting, see, imploding and exploding. See, what's the justice in starburst? See, what's the justice in the sun burning the surface of the earth to a crisp? Is there no justice in it? If it's happening, you know it's totally justful and absolutely lawful. So change is lawful, and it really depends on what's end of the stick you're on. See, to determine whether or not it's in your favor or not, but who's to say death isn't in your favor? See, there is an assumption that, well, because certain tribes were wiped out, well, they were left like without any justice. Well, this appearance is a balance of appearance. And so justice is something which transcends rationalization. Mm-hmm. People say, oh, well, the criminal got away with murder, so where's the justice here? Justice is handled at its own level. Nothing that happens that seems to be getting away with crime looks right. But there's justice, you just can't see it. Payment is something that happens quickly and or slowly. So no one is without justice, and justice is all permeating and operative at its own level for its own purposes beyond human comprehension. Yeah. So that's not to say that the legal system doesn't work, but when you look at the legal system, when people go to jail, they have repentance, they go there for a certain kind of inner redemption, and they find spiritual ideals under such circumstances. They awaken under such circumstances. They may even be liberated under such circumstances. But it doesn't matter. Justice is something that's not concerned about that. I would say good for the person. So the idea then is to awaken to where justice is, rather than wait for it to be handled on a material level of appearance. Because there's no justice there necessarily. When the tsunami's rolling down the avenue, there doesn't seem to be justice, but speak to the earth. See, earth determines what is right for whatever place it needs to move through, because it is its own being. This is the earth. You have to talk to the earth to understand how it works. And there's nothing that it does or shows up as that is unjust. It's inconceivable. That's how deep it is. You speak about the earth, you speak about the solar system. You speak about the solar system, you speak about the galaxy. When you speak about the galaxy, you're talking about the universe. And change is justice. It's constant.
At the level of impermanence, we may not see it, but if we...
It is. You are it. You are the justice already. When your time's up, that's justice. See, that's perfect justice. When the time is up, nothing anybody or anything can do. And so there's no injustice when we see the let's say the cavalry going in and doing something. We say, no, this is an injustice. Same as in any case of warfare where you have parties battling. Say there's injustice here. Some people come. You think the earth wants to hear about that? No, we who count, we who care of particulars are more or less responsible for understanding what that is in the best terms we have available to us at our level of intelligence or in our situation in some culture or other. And cultures vary in terms of their value systems. And what is justice to one culture may not be to another culture. And this is something we have to deal with. The relativity of the situation becomes a burden to all peeps. We have to understand its nature. And we're talking about relativity because we're talking about the mind. And then it's the mind. So what about the mind? Does the mind comprehend what happened to the natives? We are the natives. You are the native. We are all natives of the earth. We're all equally brothers and sisters, and thus natives of the earth. different backgrounds, different cultures. We have never ceased to be, and we can never cease to be natives of the earth with different clothes on and different functions. See? So we have to understand justice is being able to look and see for yourself and wonder at the magnificence of the justice of you being spared to be able to be here right now. Yeah. To ask questions. It's huge justice. In other words, you have to mind your business, because that's where you find your justice. So you find your debt and justice there. And the same for all the natives of the world. They all come in with a time agreement. See, you come in with a birth time and a death time, and conditions for each. You may not see them, but we could also say that natives see their own thing coming. See, they see their own beginnings and they see their own endings coming. That's also true of the native. See, to understand the nature of time, so that they are in the spirit of justice and understanding that this is a gift of grace and it's momentary. But the meaning of it is something you want to carry with you in your awareness in terms of what you've learned about true justice and that spiritual awakeness. That's real justice. Because from there then you understand all things properly, and then you can relate to other beings with a sense of, say, neutral wisdom, say, neutral compassion for all beings. Say, no, well, you're on earth, and earth is about change, and there's nothing we can do about that. We have no special agreements with it. We have to, pack up and run, or take what comes with not doing that when the time comes. So you need to know the time. So that's a whole different thing. So it's not about justice as much as knowing what the time is and doing the right thing depending on where you are in terms of what the destiny is relating to that particular thing. So the wisdom then brings a person, and practice brings a person, not self-indulgence. Self-indulgence cuts you off from that, because you're not giving of yourself to that which is beyond the roller coaster of life. Once you give yourself to that which is beyond the emotional roller coaster of life, then you can sit and be clear enough to receive what you need to receive, to know what real justice, real wisdom, and real vision are about. Gives me great pleasure to be here once again with our friends. Simple questions,
yes.
Small points.
Yes. On the topic of free mastery, can you discuss free inquiry as opposed to self-inquiry? Is there a difference?
Again, it's all in the definition of the terms. See, what is self-inquiry, and what is free mastery? Free mastery has nothing to do with itself at all. See, although it is a word that's used in the language pertaining to limitation. And so, self-inquiry, if we're talking about who am I, what am I, it's a psychological technique, okay, that could lead to some insight. And so it's a possibility. That's not comparable to the burn of the free master, the burn treasure, which is much more of a devastating approach and technique, which almost shows up as the refusal to acknowledge, and the refusal to reinforce. In fact, it's much false views. So we're talking then about views and false views, probably, and then something along the line of the view which is no view at all. So then we're discussing heart inquiry rather than self-inquiry, which is, it's maybe interchangeable, depending on what you mean by it. Say. But heart inquiry has to do with the bigger picture already. So free master relative to heart inquiry is on a different level from those people who are into self-reflection, self-meditation, and self-inquiry in general, which is not on the same scale. So.
How would you compare the teachings of heart, fire, sound, or the practice of heart, fire, sound to the practice of non-dualism as taught by Ramana Maharshi?
If we're talking about the heart, fire, sound teaching, we're talking then about sound as a basis. So there's some relevance there relative to the recognition or realization of silence. So there is some relevance there. Going beyond, let's say, the guru concept, in a manner of speaking, the free master is not exactly a guru as such. It can function, it can appear to be, but it's not really a guru. It's not really part of the bhakti as such process as taught in India. It's relevant to that, but it's not the same. Yeah. To be involved in bhakti for the sake of bhakti is what?
Devotion.
Well, devotion for the sake of devotion is bondage. And so, while it may be an alternative that is recommended and perhaps even more appropriate for peeps, if we're talking about specific devotion from karmic suffering, then devotion towards a higher ideal and higher sense of friendship and relationship, of course that's part of the path, but that has to be transcended. That becomes then a method that needs to be transcended at some point. So you have to move from being devoted as subject and object to being the thing itself. So then the urge to merge has to enable the individual to transcend their comfort zone in the subject-object structure of devotion. So we say in the beginning, it can be very useful. It's good to know that such a thing is possible. You get your heart up, you get your heart open relative to the guru and all the rest, but the guru doesn't want anybody to be devoted to it. Really, certainly a free master doesn't want anybody's devotion. Your devotion should be to your liberation and realization. That's what the master wants. Only that. And is open to the process of devoteeship that is in the spirit on the way to realization of realization, not anything less than that. So it's relevant, but there are technicalities that are somewhat different. So then in the free mastership, there's more of an emphasis on sudden realization, already gone realization. Whereas in the Hindu works, there's more of a comfort zone relative to devotion and feeling, well, you're on the path, so you just chill there and be devoted forever, in a manner of speaking. That's not necessarily so. Because then there's justice, and then that might be an injustice to the individual, depending on what they know that they really need rather than what they desire, what's easy, what's comforting, or what they want. Comment. It's because in those traditions, no one's inspecting it as such. So you're left to yourself and your form of practice and so on, which is not bad. You got to start somewhere. So all forms of practice are acknowledged and appreciated by the free masters. It's all good. But where does it take you? That's really the question for the individual, and the free master doesn't concern itself with any of that.
Can devotion be about sacrifice in the sense of giving the self to the master?
Well, the idea of releasing the self in the presence of the master is going beyond giving the self to the master. It doesn't exist. So there's nothing for you to give. There is no self. There's only the master then, and which is what the function of the free master is here to reveal, that it's already gone, it's already done. Instead, there is no path, because this is the goal, so there's no path. There's no basis for anything, because there is no mind. There's no body, because there is the heart already. Is that it?
Is that why people feel such joy around you?
They feel joy because nobody's beating up on them. because they realize that self-conflict is really not a useful or healing practice in itself. And self-meditation relative to others is a way of beating up on yourself. So there is no others in that sense. There are others conventionally, but when we're talking about real practice and you have an example who is no example, you got to have a master who is no master, then this thing becomes very useful. You have to have a free master who's not a free master, then you say, oh, I'm interested. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I want the one that doesn't exist. Yeah, give me that one. Give me the one that's not around anymore. Yeah, I'll take that one. The dead one. Yeah, give me that one. That's safe. Yeah. No, the free master is around because it isn't around to validate BS. Because you can BS yourself to no end by having a dead master, a great master who's not around to kick your butt. See? Tap you on the shoulder and say, now that was dumb. Yeah, but I thought it was dumb. And no, that was dumber. Try it this way. You don't have that. You have your mind, you have yourself on one side of the fence and on the other side of the fence. You have your dualistic machinery going for you, and it's ping pong. It's nonsense. It's a game, a head game. See, the company of the master, none of that stuff plays out as such. It just stop, boom. Cessation is possible. See, burn is present. Cessation is not a concept. It's a force. Yeah. Force of the burn. Force of silence. See? The force of peace. The intensity and the fire of peace. Yeah. The gentle fire is the peace of transcension. And that's all there is. Anything else you have to think about in your own psyche, in your own chest, in your own mind, your own brain, your own head. See, in your own gut, in your own body. You have to think about it. You have to mull it over. Why are you even entertaining these destructive sort of entities? We're talking about, creatures of thought. In your mind, when you have the blade present, the fire blade. When you know it's present, it's just like a blade that is on fire, just about ready to burn through your knee. It's like, wait a minute. Wait, no! That's focus, that's attention. Say, but why you're having a good time in your mind. Here, I want to take your knee, I want to remove your knee for a moment. And then all of a sudden those thoughts and all that stuff become irrelevant, and they're no longer important. All your fantasies and desires, all of your wishful this, that, and whatever disappear because your knee is at risk. That's the urgency involved in practice. See, that is good practice. When you are practicing in the spirit of, well, your life depends upon it. It's as if a blade is ready to, a dagger is ready to penetrate your heart chakra, see, and take it out. And once you are able to resonate with the suffering of other beings, you stay in that place. Your heart resonant with other beings. They know these people are suffering, and I feel their suffering, and I have to practice. Their lives depend upon it. And we're having a certain kind of wave of not suffering, but awareness, in tune with and in touch with the heart need of other peeps. So you don't do this for yourself because it's something that's cool to do or convenient to do. You do this because life depends upon it. Your life is wasting. You need to go deeper because it's your opportunity to go deeper. It's nothing casual about it. It's extreme, it's catastrophic. It's heart-pressing, not depressing, it's just heart-pressing. Once you get to that level of intensity, and practice is all there is, then joyousness arises. Let's practice all there is. I'm in one place, finally. The place of practice. Because in that place of good practice, all the Buddhas, all the Yudas and such are present in that one sort of moment. Nowness of practice. True, complete, perfect understanding practice. Zero suffering, clarity, awakenment, enlightenment, all together. All of that. So the free master then shows up as a paradox because it's not about people. These gurus that are like so desperately wanting and desiring people. Now, of course, there could be an altruistic basis for it to a certain degree, but we're talking about hams. People who just love to be around people, to be seen around people because they need it more than the people need it, in some ways, in some senses. And because this is a field of human beings and human nature, you're going to find teachers that are still in progression themselves. They're still working on it, they're still being worked on, they're still being purified by the force and fire of spirit itself. And so then you have teachers who need teachers. Teachers who need to be minded and supervised. See? And they have their butts kicked too. See? They have their gurus as overlords to keep them on point. And you have teachers that are, training as teachers, and then there are those teachers who wind up with a job and they have no training at all because there's no one else to fill the spot. So you have those kinds of teachers who are put upon by circumstances to be teachers, and they do the best they can to fulfill them. And you have to respect them as well as respect those who are in the process of learning how to be better teachers. So there is this process of learning how to be a better teacher. It's a progressive process. By giving up more, by not allowing your programs, once they are properly recognized, to dictate to you and determine who and what you show up as, then it's very possible in the emptiness of your practice, the silence, sort of sound of your practice, to transcend all such programming so that what's left is the true. The true. Not a peep-sucking peep, but the true. Soul of itself, the heart of itself, see, pure mind of itself, and so on and so forth. Free. Mastery, that means done. See, not this. This isn't done anything. See, there's no prostrate, it's just done. It's like already happened. So there's no one seeing through the eyes, there's nothing, no one's breathing through the body, there's nothing else going on. It's already done, it's already happened. This is after the fact. This is the afterlife, already. The bardo, the afterlife, it's already that. And going back to the idea of Advaita and seeing that there is no self and no other, it's one thing, that is valid, that's a good step, no question about that. It's not that it's about nothingness, it's not that it's about everythingness. It's neither nothingness nor everythingness. It just is. So I think that's a step in the right direction, where you become strong enough to handle conception-less recognition of what is. Wordless recognition of what is, say. And then selfless recognition of what is. That's good practice. Doesn't mean you're going to realize it simply because you can think it and you have a conceptual idea of what non-conceptuality is. Because it's really zero. Super zero. Ness. Zero heart space. Comments?
It's all true. You need a master that's not.
A master. Playing master. Just as you need a master musician who's not playing master musician. so that what you have there is just a clear channel. See? So what is true in the spiritual works is the same for the musical works, which is just sound works, the sound works. And what is true in the sound works, at the deepest level, is true of the spiritual. Please, people, understand, there is no difference. The meditation is the same. Let's say the forms of it are relatively different. We have sound forms, which are thought forms. They are thought forms. Meditating on the sound, meditating on thought, there's no difference. Beyond the point, there's no difference. It just is what it is. It's the thing. And then you have the no thing. Try to bring in the formlessness, understanding, wisdom, or recognition, or insight, intuition into whatever the form is, and see that, well, the form, every sound is silence, and everything we see is empty. And so we're talking same meditation cushion. The difference is what the I am is doing after all is said and done, or while it's being said and done. What's the I am up to? Is it the I am that's doing anything? Is it the I am that's taking pride in what is going on and making something out of it that is an exaggeration or distortion of what free intelligence is? That's for the peeps to see. Is it something where it's about narcissism, seeing oneself do this, do that, and being subject to self-importance, inflation, and thus depression afterwards? Or is it about just clear doing without anything happening, see? Are we talking about the no happening, nothing's happeningness of life or practice as a non-musician, or life or practice as a musician? Doesn't matter. The heart is present, and it has to be coming from and in relationship to, or even submitted to, let's say, what the heart function is, which is to give. Not egoically, not personally, not selfishly, but just to give as part of its nature. Givingness. With intelligence. So you're not giving something ridiculously to someone else. Or giving something to a ridiculous sort of recipient. It has to be intelligence, grace, dignity, and a certain kind of heart smartness that goes along with it. It's not silly. Oh, well, I'm on the path, so I have to help you with your groceries. No, you have to help somebody with their groceries because you say you have to help somebody with their groceries. No one's saying that there's a code that says you have to help somebody with their groceries, because a master might say, no, you don't have enough groceries. You're not carrying enough groceries. See, so unless you're able to make more precise creative judgments of phenomena and situations, you can't be assuming that, well, you're doing the right thing, because you may not be doing the right thing. You may be doing the right thing for you, but you may be doing the right thing for your purpose. Because you're doing the right thing for you, you may be defeating your own purpose. So you need to have more objectivity relative to whatever it is you feel is the right thing to do when it may not be. See? So that is the dilemma that each practitioner has to deal with relative to their self-doing mind, their self-assuming mind, and their self-creating mind. See? All together, same thing.
On the topic of judgment and the master perhaps seeing something that an ordinary person may not.
Always seeing something
Yeah.
ordinary peeps refuse to see. That's what distinguishes them. The master wants to see all of it, all the sides of it, and does in a blink of an eye. People want to see what they can handle, see what they don't fear, what they're comfortable with. And that's about it. That determines, by way of limitation, preference, and some kind of strategic sort of angling that makes the person feel good, or feel comforted, or feel validated, see, or feel served in a certain way. That is really the problem. The problem is non-recognition of the cost of self-indulgence. Over time, regarding energy, regarding distraction, regarding heartbeats being wasted because you validate BS more than what's true. See, true to your spiritual nature. BS relative to self-nature over what is true relative to heart nature. Yeah. This is not personal. This is law for those who understand. Nothing's being said about anybody. It's just law.
Everyone needs a moral compass or a kind of ability to
It's
discern.
relative. That's a relative thing. The moral is a relative. Who says what is moral for everybody? See, you have that from person to person. They all have their own morality, so it's a good word, but you're talking about human nature, so it doesn't have any validity beyond the point. All kinds of moralities. I mean, some will say the only real morality is liberation. Self-realization is the only real moral compass. See? And once you get there, then no one knows what there is. Once you get there, it's like, well, who's doing right and who's doing wrong? You know, at that point. So then nobody knows beyond the point. So we can say that conventionally, well, the right thing is to be kind to other peeps. Loving kindness is a good, let's say, practice to bring good karma to you. That, you know, more or less reduces the amount of negative karma that you might otherwise be bringing to yourself by being a jerk or being some kind of inconsiderate, pig-headed moron, see, which a lot of people are very good at being. And then they become their worst enemies, and a lot of people don't understand why that's the case. And then you have those people who are really beyond that and say, oh, I want to be their enemy. See, I don't want to have anything to do with certain people. So isolation and separation is their MO, mode of operation. See? So there's no heart intelligence. See? When we're talking about heart intelligence, then it's got to be inclusive, but it doesn't mean you have to be in everybody's face and expect anything from other peeps. That means your heart has to be open to the whole process of life, the whole beingness of multidimensional intelligence at a cosmic level, and that you are that. You have to breathe that, practice that. You are already that. You're already peace. Because you're already everything and everybody, you're already at peace. So you have to wonder why you would have a neurotic moment at all from that vantage point. Neurosis doesn't arise. There is no neurosis in that. But you can create that. And you do, very naturally. Create that neurosis, that bubble of pain and anxiety and suffering, because it's programmed in until you override it by good practice and make it obsolete, because it is normal, it's human, so it has its place, but it's there indicating suffering that you need to say to yourself. So, oh, I see, when I don't practice, I'm suffering these feelings, these emotions, these patterns, these tendencies, these activities. Oh, and then, but when I practice, they don't no longer seem to be important. They don't no longer seem to be relevant to me. So good. So you see that then you have different levels of consciousness to work from, different aspects of your own being and nature to access. See? Being in the freemess, the presence or aura or field enables you to see that those things, even those things disappear. Even the good things about yourself disappear. And what's left is not very much. It's all burned away. It's just light, non-existence.
There have been some masters or people who have been called masters or enlightened who leave their devotees with a lot of trauma, like rape or molestation or abuse, exploitation, etc. Is it that they get a free pass, so to speak, because there's no morality, or should we actually judge that as being wrong?
Well, the idea of laws, we can say it's wrong, but that doesn't make it wrong. We know that war is wrong, it doesn't make it wrong. Somebody's going to justify it. So we're talking about the relativity of anything and everything. It's wrong for who? Under what conditions? Now, of course, if we see situations that occur in the daily news, we're going to be saying, we're going to be outraged. We see children being taken advantage of. You're going to see all of these injustices, as it would be called, injustices. And we're going to be affected by that. We're going to be outraged. We're going to feel it. For a moment, we're going to be outraged. And we're going to go on with our lives. We see a lot of hungry peeps out in the world. It's outrageous. we see starving nations. That's outrageous, because we know there's so much wealth. And this is what people are choosing to see rather than do something about it, who have a lot of wealth. They don't want to do anything about it because it is, after all, their wealth. It's not wealth given to share with others to that degree. We're not talking about individuals, we're talking about nations that control a lot of resources. Brought together in the spirit of undoing starvation, undoing, poverty, and such, that can be accomplished in an hour. With sufficient genius and openness and generosity, that whole problem can be done obsolete by the time this talk's over. But you don't have that commitment, you don't have that kind of need. The need is not there, see. The need is not there, and the focus is not there, and the intention and desire are also not there. You have a lot of people who have nothing that want that to happen, and you have a lot of people who have everything that don't want that to happen. See? So then that's human nature. That's the relative side of it. And so when we're talking about the enlightenment, you have to be okay. You have to start tolerating differences. Even going beyond injustice, you have to tolerate the ways of the world. You have to find peace to bring peace to other peeps. So you have to override your reactions, your emotional passions. It's good to feel, but then that comes with a cost. It's good to have passion, but then depending on where you burst your passion to the public, you have to be careful that that passion is going to serve your purposes and maybe help others. Because often passion doesn't do that. Passion explodes, causes more of the same, causes violence, and we have the breeding of violence, breeding more, and so we have the condition of the world, which is needing and begging for enlightenment, understanding, genius. It just needs more genius for some reason. Genius is off duty on the planet. It's off duty. It's not. It's like a myth out here. It doesn't exist. You hear about it, but where is it? Where are the geniuses coming together out there that are part of the machinery of it by their position, whether it's politics or whether it's industry, and saying listen, we have an obligation to stop all this, and be generous as world beings, as world, let's say, passengers. We're passengers on this world. We're passengers. Say, we're on the ship. This is our ride. Fellow travelers. That's that. Mm-hmm. But the heart is not in the resonance for that, so everybody's too busy doing their own thing. Yeah, you have United Nations, you have all these events, but we don't see this kind of focus coming up precisely for that purpose. We see a lot of religions do a lot of things, and we are very grateful that somebody's doing something. But we often feel that not the right people are doing the right things that the right people should be doing, who have the power to make big differences out here for the sake of all humanity, but maybe this is not the right planet for that. So until this becomes the right planet for that, then that's always going to be a want for the whole. It's going to want that. So self-difference plus self-difference makes more self-difference. When we have self-difference multiplied to the degree that it exists out here, then we have very few people paying attention to many people. We have very few people paying attention, although everybody sees it, everybody knows about it. They're not paying attention in the right way. See? No. And it takes a certain kind of intelligence to see that the darkness has to be recognized and appreciated for what it is, and transformed as a result of that in terms of the mental climate in the world. But this may not be the right planet for that as far as that goes. There are people that are trying to change the way things are out here, and there's no law that says it will be changed. Because with this planet purgatory, as it is, calling it Earth, but purgatory. A living being, it has what we would call hell here, and it has heaven here. It's all mixed together. This is the universe right here, where we can breathe. See, we're breathing beings on a planet which represents the entire universe. See, in terms of mind and in terms of physical events that occasionally do happen, and that includes cataclysmic things that happen and overwhelm the humans, overwhelm them completely. And so this is what we're seeing here as being worked out on the planet for people. That is karmic experience, karmic debts, see, and karmic lessons. See, karmic lessons. Lessons in where to be, lessons in where not to be. Lessons in where to be with whom, and lessons in where to be without such beings. Yeah. So we have lessons in doing and not doing, in being and not being, and knowing and not knowing. That's the law. Whether you're here, whether you are somewhere else, it's all the same. You are responsible for what you're doing or not doing, being or not being, knowing or not knowing. There's no escaping the pressures of those forces. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So awakening to the karmic impact of society is a step in the right direction. See? Getting away from politics that are totally, let's say, non-productive. It's also part of this awakening beyond politics, see? As conflict fear. That's what it is, warfare. Difference. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's conflict and warfare. It's going to be happening out there, and you can add to it by not recognizing there are other things you can do. Okay? More neutralizing things a person can do, like practice. See? And creating a message of more peaceful cohabitation and cooperation with other peeps. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that in itself is a political statement. Mm-hmm. It's not a non-statement, it's a statement. Gandhi's statement was very powerful. Okay? I'm not saying that's correct, I'm saying his non-violence led to violence. So you have to see the paradox of that. Mm-hmm. Same with Jesus. Okay? Talking about non-violence, turn the other cheek, leading to violence. So then what's the purpose? That's a big question mark for the peeps. If you want to end up in violence, go to non-violence. If you want to end up alive, go to violence and be good at it. Become a good cowboy. So then it becomes a question of paradoxically saying, who knows? Say, who knows? You have to know your path to create your path. You have to know mastery as a way out of suffering and collapsing on yourself. See? And that's why practice is important. You're not going to gain if you practice once a year. It doesn't work. When you have, let's say, some kind of self-consciousness or the conscience, required to consider practice as something important for your morality or your, let's say, your spirituality, if you want to call it spirituality, your balance, your psychic balance. It has to be seen in terms of what it is, and that's an ongoing process. It's not a visit Grandpa's place, once a year. Come and sit down, talk to old Gramps. Hey, how's it going, Gramps? How you be, Grandma? No, it's a much more urgent situation than that. And so for extreme beings, it is an ongoing process, as it must be, as it can be for more peeps.
On the subject before, it seems that conflict that you observe does not have to be conflict that you take on, that becomes your own inner conflict.
It doesn't have to be, but it usually is. Conflict you observe is your conflict. Conflict that you transcend would also help you to transcend needing to observe it as such. You've got to find different things to observe, to be, in order to feel. So you have to be free to observe what you need to feel in terms of feeling good in yourself, and that's usually not conflict. So if you have some kind of addiction to conflict, well then you're in trouble, Mac. But if you have, on the other hand, an addiction to peaceful coexistence, then you may be part of the undoing of troubles for the peeps. Say, listen, we can do this together, we can work this out. We need to cut through our differences in order to make this workable, see, or jumpable. We need to jump over these hurdles. See. Cutting through the differences, which means cutting through the conflict, is preliminary practice. It's very good practice. You have to put the hatchet on it. See. Make yourself conflict-free, so to speak. And that's an impossibility, but it's worth the effort. Conflict-free, at ease, at peace. Just to think in those terms gives you power, because it's not your nature to be conflict-free. But yet, all the tensions you have in your body are begging to be trained. It's like the dogs inside us, the demons inside us, want to be galvanized to a cause. They like to work in like an army sense, where there's more power and strength. So it doesn't matter if it's a bad thing, it's going to go that way. It could be a good thing. And what we want to do is galvanize all our forces and demons to do good. Get them in line with, let's say, heart practice. They will get in line with heart practice. When you hear me play, you hear a lot of force, a lot of power, a lot of catastrophic universal energy. That means my demons have been put to good use. They don't work against me or anybody else. Take a lesson from that. Love always you. A closing point was to bring up the fact of the practice of inquiry as such. This is not quite about inquiry or any attitude of expectation or doing. See? So this is much more the practice of being open beyond inquiry, inquiring and receiving anything as far as that goes. So this is just simple, basic, naked openness that precedes and transcends inquiry as such, as any kind of strategic method of provoking or invoking responses from any level of consciousness whatsoever. Everything just is as it is. It's open, it's clear, it's free. It's very comfortable in a non-self-serving way. It just is peace. See? So we are open to self-arising peace more than drilling in some kind of inquiring manner. So this is already the clear space of itself, the zero heart space, the free master space, completely at peace, at ease with what is, as it is. Coming.
Sometimes people take on the technique of inquiry, but they take on too much, or they ask too much of it. It becomes a tactic of the self. They get lost in questioning.
It becomes a game. It becomes a game. Therefore, no technique like that is the best technique. So, inquiry is maybe useful for some at the beginning, and then after a while, you just know. You don't have to inquire. You just know. There's a difference. It's not even about certainty. You just know. You want to state of spontaneous knowingness. So there's no question. There's no answer. There's no one that needs to know anything, and things just show up as they are. It just is. That's the beauty of the realization of zero heart space. The free master as zero heart space. No one, nothing, nowhere. My boy, it's you.